Hello, welcome back to this amazing interview. I'm really excited to bring this to you. This is a conversation between myself and my friend Maria. It is an honor to have her on our show. Maria is a wife, a mother of four under four, a lifelong student, and a wholeness coach. And we had the privilege to meet sharing the same passion of helping other women achieve their dreams. In her fertility journey, she navigated PCOS, endo, surgery, and wild cycles. You better believe it. I asked all the questions about all that it kept her going during that time. Fast forward now, she's now pregnant with baby number four on the way in 4.5 years. She also shares pregnancy challenges, humble redemption story, mindset tips to survive the challenging season. Today's conversation is so real. Stay tuned and don't forget to leave us a review. Welcome to Fertility and Wholeness Podcast. Are you tired of seeing that test be negative month after month? Will you ever stop having to take test after test? Are you scared of all the medical terminology, office visits, and misinformation you see at every turn on your infertility journey? If you answer yes to any of those, you're not alone. You are at the right place. I'm so happy you're here with us. My name is Ariana. I'm a fertility care practitioner and a wholeness coach with over a decade of experience on the field. I created this podcast because I know what it is to feel alone and lost while navigating fertility problems. And after helping hundreds of women, teaching them how to not protract their cycles, boost their fertility, and navigate their monthly emotional roller coaster and get pregnant naturally, I am on a mission to empower women to take charge of their fertility journey. In this podcast, you will find heartfelt conversations, education, tips on how to take care of and understand your fertility, emotional support, simple lifestyle changes to boost your fertility, nutrition, self-care routines, tips for handling stress and anxiety with ease. We have amazing, exciting expert interviews and guests, inspirational stories, and practical advice on preparing for pregnancy and joyful delivery. Are you ready to reclaim your health, your life, and become pregnant naturally? If so, grab your green juice and prenatal vitamins. This episode is just what the doctor ordered. Today with my friend Maria. She's going to share her story she's been through. I'm so excited that you're here. Tell us, Maria, a little bit about you, who you are, where in the world you are, and we can't wait to hear your story. Go ahead.
Well, thank you so much. I'm so grateful to be here. This is something I love talking about, our fertility, our health, how all the parts play together. So I'm really grateful to be here today. But yeah, I'm from near Lincoln, Nebraska. We live just outside the city on a small farm. My husband and I and our three kids, number four on the way, coming in a few months. And we keep pretty busy. We're renovating our house, doing some new farming things with animals and orchards. And yeah, just grateful for the life that we have.
All right. Well, it sounds like a full life. Sounds like it's full of everything, chaos and everything.
Yeah, we joke that there's never a dull day around here. It's always just full in a good way. I mean, obviously there are life challenges too, but so many good things.
All right.
Yeah, so I guess what would you like to know?
So listener is really somebody that struggles with some undiagnosed fertility. So I know you have your own fair share and your own history of fertility issues. And a lot of that started when you were young. So I want you to take us back to that time in your life when you were before you even got married. I think that's where it all started. So I want you to take us back to that time in your life when you were going through all this diagnosis, all these issues, and share with our listener what is that? What did that feel like actually?
Sure. Yeah, well, I guess I could start all the way back at the beginning. I think I got my first period when I was 14. So I was like ninth grade or however old that, or whatever grade that put me in. And I had all brothers. No, I had one sister. When I was 12, I got my first sister. Otherwise, I had five brothers. So I was in this journey alone, yet I didn't have sisters. Of course, I had friends and classmates, but I was way too embarrassed to talk to any of the other ladies about it. Even kind of hesitant to even ask my mom questions. But I, for some reason, I don't know where I got this idea. Maybe the puberty talk in like fifth grade about marking on the calendar when we get our cycle so that we can be prepared next month. It's not like surprise and we're like leaking at school or something. So I started keeping track and I had this little notebook. So I started writing down the day I got my period and the day it ended. And I'm actually so grateful I started doing that because it wouldn't have been like without that data, that information, I wouldn't have really known that things were really kind of off kilter. And so, yeah, I guess fast forwarding to college, I remember I was having a conversation with my roommate and I was on my period. I was having a lot of painful cramps, just really not feeling well. And I was like, those days when it just feels like your insides are on fire and it feels like knives are like cutting on the inside. And she just looked at me like, what are you talking about? And it was then I realized, because I was just, I guess, so bashful to even talk to friends or like classmates or anything. I realized, oh, not everybody experiences some of these things. And I just thought it was normal. I thought it was normal to be in a lot of pain. And I always kept thinking, like, oh, they said, or my mom said, or somebody told me that it can take a while, the first couple of years, for the cycles to get regular. And then they come about once a month, but mine never were. And here I was in college wondering, like, when is this going to happen? So I think it was my senior year in college. So I started being a little curious about it, not really thinking about it much because I was not, I don't know, wasn't really super on my radar. I was kind of just dealing with it. But my senior year, there was a special presentation they did at our Newman Center. It's just a Catholic center at our college. Um, a woman who was, I think she was a nurse, but she also taught NFP, came to just give a general kind of information talk to the ladies. And I was sitting there looking at her slides and her presentation, being like, I don't fit any of this normal, like, textbook kind of presentation that she's giving. Like, there should be dry days with no mucus. There should be days with this kind of mucus. I have mucus every single day. Like, I constantly have mucus in my underwear, I guess, or when I go to the bathroom. Like, I that doesn't seem right. So I asked a few questions. I was like, what if this happens? What if it's like that? And she left me with a few tidbits. She's like, maybe it's low progesterone, maybe it's I think she said yeast infection, or she rattled off some things, and I was just like, oh, okay, like, I don't know. Once again, I just thought that was normal. Like, I didn't know. Um, so then I actually didn't get in contact with her, but I was it my junior year? Actually, I don't remember. It was in college. But I went back home for the summer, and there was a lady in my hometown that taught the class. And I was like, okay, no boyfriend, no, like, not trying to have babies right now. Like, but I just want to learn about this for me. And if I have low progesterone, what does that mean? And if I have a yeast infection, what does that mean? So I guess that's really when kind of the serious journey started, when I took that class with her, met with her, started charting. Um, yeah, so I don't know if you want me to go into kind
Yeah.
of from
What
there to like,
happened? Like, yeah, go ahead and take it away. What happened after that? Do you actually find something? What did that mean to you as a single woman? Because at this time, you're not even thinking kids or husband or anything. So go ahead.
yeah, well, I'm thinking about it, but it's not in my immediate future. So I kind of used to have this attitude like, I can't think about things that I don't have yet because then I'll just want them. And it's like an unhealthy, like, thinking about things I don't have. Basically means I'm ungrateful. If I'm thinking about and wanting things that I don't have, then I just should be thinking about them. So I didn't really maybe have a healthy understanding of like actually preparing myself for um, the next step, like being ready to receive or enter into that next season. Because I don't know, even like wedding planning, like, I had this idea like I shouldn't look at anything on Pinterest. I shouldn't have any ideas of what flowers I want because then I'm like getting ahead of myself. And so it's kind of the same thing with, like, I wanted to be married by the time I graduated college and have babies right away, have lots of babies, but I wasn't really thinking about it in the kind of preparation, helpful way. It was kind of like, I'll think about it when I get there. But once I started charting and I learned, okay, there are some things that are not really great that are going on, but I don't really know what that means. I learned I had to have several months worth of charts so that I could see a doctor. And there was a specialist. I lived in South Dakota at this time. There was a specialist in Sioux Falls that she worked with women with infertility and different PCOS, different issues. But in order to get into her, I had to see another doctor first to get a referral. So it's kind of this long process. So I actually saw my mom's OB, who understands charts, but like doesn't go into kind of all the different troubleshooting areas. Then I got a referral. So it was a long process. So this actually was my senior year of college when I finally got this appointment with this specialist. And I think she's a very wonderful woman. She's very knowledgeable about what she does. She's actually since retired, but she also had a really kind of strong, almost gruff personality. And all the things she told me, she just like rattled off all these things. She's like, you probably have endometriosis, and which makes it hard to conceive. You probably have PCOS because your cycles are all over the place. And you need to take metformin. You need to take progesterone this day and, through this day of your cycle. And it was just like, I felt so overwhelmed and just like kind of my life was not really my life was over. That's dramatic, but like I'm never going to be able to have kids. Like I for sure have endometriosis. I for sure have PCOS. Like it just is, all the signs are there. And I remember I went back to campus and I just cried in the chapel for hours and actually getting kind of teary now, like thinking about that. It was such a low place and kind of like, I don't know, I hit I hit a really low place and it was like I didn't know if I could even think about wanting to get married or have kids because I just knew it was not going to be possible. Um, Even though I didn't actually know that, but so I had a really bad week. And then after that, I was like, okay, she mentioned nutrition and better sleep and exercise. I'm going to try those things first before taking metformin because I've read about it a little bit. I was just also against taking any medications if I didn't have to. Um, so I didn't start the metformin right away, or I think I started the progesterone. But yeah, I tried to be much more intentional about my sleep. Being in college, I was kind of a little bit all over the place with my classes. I had a part-time job, other commitments and involvements. So I started to get more just structured about my sleep and my nutrition and exercise, knowing that when I'm on my period, the more kind of intense short workouts I can do, it actually kind of burns through the pain a little bit of the cramps and the discomfort. So I just started, being more intentional. But ultimately, nothing really changed as far as my cycle length. I had anywhere from 14 days to like have another period in 14 days, or at least I thought, because I was bleeding again, all the way up to 60 days of like that's how long my cycle was. And part of that goes back to sometimes I was more physically active, especially in high school running track. I think it just suppressed my cycle. I didn't understand at the time, but it was after several months of trying that, I came back and then maybe started the progesterone. I honestly don't remember all the timing of everything, but I was trying this for several years, graduated college, didn't meet my husband until later, got married several years after college. And it was then when I was getting married and going through marriage prep, I was like, okay, like we need to figure this out. And that's when I started taking the metformin, and it actually did not agree with me at all. Unfortunately, I was one of those people that I just got very sick when I was taking it. But yeah, I guess that brings us up to marriage. I don't know if you want me to talk about like after marriage and then trying to conceive and going on from there.
So I want to know. Probably it will be good for our listeners to know what exactly what steps you took or what got you into a healthy state, right? Because you had a prolonged, like you went through a lot of hoops with finding the doctor, getting the referral, getting there, trying some things on your own. and then finally getting married and saying, now I really need to get serious about this. What happened then? Do you end up doing another things besides your own DIY and more than progesterone? Anything else? What? How did that look like for you?
Yeah, so I'll go back to right before we got married. I think it was during that time, like those months when we were engaged, right before we got married, I ultimately decided to stop taking the metformin. Again, I think my doctor is very knowledgeable, but I think she also had a pretty set, like, here's what you do, here's the steps, you follow these steps, and this is what you do. And there wasn't a lot of nuance. Um, so I actually had someone suggested this, like, just take notes, like, take good notes on your health, like, whether it's your back is hurting or this, you get frequent headaches, and then take that to your doctor so you can say, like, here's the comprehensive. And I came with like 4 pages of written notes. And I think at this point, she kind of knew, like, I'm serious. Like, I want to get off this metformin. It's making me very ill. I feel anxious. I have lots of digestive issues. And she was saying, like, oh, you're just nervous and excited about wedding planning. And I was like, no, like, I've never puked this much before. I've never had like so much like stomach upset. So I got off of the metformin. I think it took me a while to kind of recover from that and get my stomach back to a better place. But also at that time, we were looking into the St. Paul VI Institute. It used to be the Pope Paul VI, now called St. Paul VI Institute. And we're like, okay, if I do have PCOS and endometriosis, they have this surgery to go in and clear out the endometriosis. And if that's the case, we want to start with a clean slate. We want to do this before we get married. But once again, it was just kind of a long process, and just due to, I don't think it always takes this long, but just our situation, it took a long time to get the forms and get all of that and get in on the schedule. So we got married, and then it was, gosh, I gotta think, maybe 9 months into our marriage when we got in on the schedule for that. And so we were open. We were not necessarily trying to achieve or avoid, like, if we got pregnant, like, great. But it didn't happen. And we also knew that we couldn't be pregnant come the surgery, that we'd have to, not do the surgery. So got to, this would have been March of 2019. Went for the surgery. I did have endometriosis. Fortunately, they were able to remove it all in that the first go. If it had been more kind of invasive, they would have had to do another surgery. So I was grateful for that. They did confirm PCOS. And one really fun tidbit, they were able to tell me which ovary I just ovulated from. So then I knew every other month, like, which ovary I was ovulating from, which is kind of fun because I can be a bit of a nerd. But
Right?
yeah, so I actually know. Yeah, so I actually know which ovary each of my children have come from. And so when I'm trying to calculate my due date, I'm like, okay, my right ovary, that's the wild child. That's the one that ovulates very inconsistently. My left ovary is consistent. So I have every other cycle that's like short, long, shorter, longer, longer. Like, it's interesting. But yeah, so after the surgery, I was so hopeful. I was like, right away, like, everything's fixed. We're going to get pregnant. Next month wasn't pregnant. Next month wasn't pregnant. It was like another 6 or 7 months. And I started to feel really, really defeated because I thought we did the surgery, we did all the right things. And at this point, I was still bleeding like 20 days of the month sometimes. And it was like brown bleeding and trail end bleeding and all of that. And they had run labs. They had done, I forget what it's called, but they go up into the uterus from the bottom and kind of take pictures, and maybe you know what that's called. I can't remember. They said, yeah, during the surgery, they said, yeah, there's inflammation in there. We did all these labs. There's no infection. Take this antibiotic anyway. But I still kept having this inflammation and this bleeding. And so then being like so determined, like, I want to figure this out, I heard from someone else about muscle testing with a chiropractor. And I was like, I don't know what this is. But she found she had a lot of food allergies. And once she kind of made some dietary changes, her health vastly improved. I was like, okay, I like chiropractors. They help my back feel better. I'll just check this out. And he actually did muscle testing on me. And I learned that I had an allergy to corn, eggs, and oats. And I was eating eggs all the time because they're so healthy, right? And also a lot of corn, because at that time I had studied about women with PCOS should have less dairy and less gluten. So I was having like corn tortillas to make a sandwich instead of bread. And I just realized, wow, like, okay, stopped eating those 3 foods, and boom, the next month we were pregnant. So there's, I think, just like so many layers, and there's so many different things that all come together for this health. And if we keep searching, I think we all have different timelines, but if we keep searching and remain open and curious, I think the answers, the opportunities present themselves. There can be a lot of patience and diligence in the process. But yeah, so I guess that takes us to our first pregnancy.
So I think what we can take from one of the things that I can take from what you're sharing is that it wasn't just this miracle pill, this one thing that you needed to do. It was a series of things that it needed to come together for your health and ultimately to lead to conception. But it wasn't just this take this progesterone or do the surgery. It was your health, it was your exercise, it was food allergies. So it's really a holistic way to look at your health for you to be able to conceive, even like get into the hoops of different doctors to the institute to get you to your surgery. It took 9 months for you to get there. So again, the patience and the perseverance and not giving up. And for somebody that is in a time crunch, that might translate to I'm running out of time. And this is
absolutely. Yeah, I admit, one of my less admirable qualities, I can be impatient sometimes. Like I just want things to work, want them to work yesterday, and I want it now. And that was, such kind of forced lesson in patience, because these things don't happen just because, even if we think we're doing all the right things, like that doesn't, like each child is such a gift. Like even health, we can be such a steward, do the studying, the diligence, make the right choices, improve our choices, but our health is still such a gift. And I think it's, unless we've been through something like that, it can so easily be taken for granted.
This is uplifting and helpful. Please leave us a review. It's like giving us a virtual hug, and it helps other amazing women like you find our show. Plus, it makes us smile from ear to ear. And hey, why stop there? Share the love. Tell your Betsies, your mom, your sister, and even your favorite barista about our podcast. The more, the merrier.